מה הזמן מסמן לי, זה הכל שאריות של החיים, ולחיות את הרגע, להתחיל לאסוף את השברים. אולי יצא יותר, אתחיל קצת למהר, להתחיל להסתדר ולעשות קצת רעש. אולי מקום אחר, מקום יותר בוער, להתחיל קצת לקלקל ולתקן עוד פעם.
Shalom, hi, welcome to Abracadabra, Create What You Speak. I'm iLan Azoulai. I'm a spiritual mentor and a sound therapist for you who are ready to reclaim your power, to find your joy, to find that which drives you to bring out to the world with no fear and all with joy. This program is a program of empowerment, is where I bring people, they bring their gifts to the world, they show what they do, they show how they express themselves to the world, how their work is an empowering tool for others. And today I have the honor and the pleasure to bring people that are doing a wonderful job in Israel. And the first one is Ofer Salomon. Ofer Salomon is the founder of the nonprofit organization Soldiers of Gold, where him and his son, Eden Salomon, are taking care of lone soldiers in Israel. Lone soldiers are soldiers who do not have families that come to Israel, immigrate from the States or from Europe to serve in the IDF, or soldiers in Israel that don't have families, either orphan or they don't have the means to support themselves. And from the day of enlisting until 4 years after their service, Ofer and his large team of volunteers, of other ex-soldiers, of other citizens that are pouring their love and their support to these soldiers. That's what they're doing, providing for education, cars, laundry, house services, apartments, every Friday having a different person in the community cooking dinner for them, trips, yearly trips, just great things, really giving them a sense of home because they sacrifice their own home to come to Israel and to serve. And with him are also Segev Kenner and Yaniv Levy. Segev and Yaniv are two soldiers that immigrated from the States to serve in the IDF. And they've graduated. They were discharged from the army eventually after their service, and they were part of Soldiers of Gold, and they had a vision. They had a vision that is called daytodayheroes.org. It is to show the heroic and the human side of the Israeli soldiers, something that we don't see, unfortunately, in the media, because the media is biased. The media is really just seeking for negativity and to show really things that are not as they really are. Now, not all media channels, but for the most part, that is how it is. And so they're here to show really the human side of each soldier of them as we're going to meet them. הריני מקבל על עצמי את מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך. I hereby accept to myself the utterance, the due commandment of love your neighbor, your friend, in the same way that you express love to yourself. And the first is expressing love to ourselves so we can be light to the world. Hello. Well, hello, Ofer. Hello, Segev. Hello, Eden. Hello, Yaniv. Welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. How are you, everybody?
Good, thank you. How are you, iLan?
I'm wonderful. Thank God. I'm really blessed and happy that you're here to share with everybody really this wonderful work and so important work that you guys are doing. And hopefully we can get this to enough people to continue and make this change. So, Ofer, raise your hand, Ofer, so everybody knows who you are. There is Ofer. Okay. So Ofer started a nonprofit organization. It's called Soldiers for Gold, and he really takes care of soldiers from their day of enlisting until 4 years after their service ended. And this is a wonderful thing. This is creating a sense of family, going on trips, uh, just a wonderful overall thing. So Ofer, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the wonderful work that you're doing for the IDF soldiers, and tell us about you. Tell us about how did you even start up with this idea?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to tell the people in America the story of our heroes.
Absolutely.
And everything starts as usually I'm helping people in my city by give them foods and furniture and everything they need. So all the family that need help knows that they have an address.
Yeah.
And one day, one of the people who know me told me that there's 4 American lonely soldiers in an apartment in one of the houses here in Hod Sharon, and they need help. So I jump over there and I talk to them and help them in all their needs. And from there, everything is history. More and more lonely soldiers came to me and tell me their problem, and I try to help them as much as I can. And in 4 years of doing things for the community and the lonely soldiers, we grew up. Now we are 70 lonely soldiers that our nonprofit group take care. We gave them houses, we gave them cars, we gave them foods. Every houses, we have 16 apartment that the soldiers staying over there. Every apartment has a mama that cook for them a hot meal,
a hot Shabbat meal, or any meal, but usually Shabbat is a big thing.
And it always tastes good.
It always tastes good. The challah tastes good on Shabbos. on during the week, challah doesn't taste very well, but on Friday it tastes great.
The Shabbat spices.
The Shabbat spices, yes. So these are families.
You saw Yaniv when we spoke about the food of Shabbat. He's smiling because he knows how much it tastes.
And I want to tell everyone that there are volunteers. So there are volunteers around the city, around Hod Sharon, which is a little bit northeast of Tel Aviv. It's still part of Tel Aviv, right? Kind of. It's the district of Tel Aviv, right? And these are for soldiers that live and that reside in Hod Sharon. It would be great if it would be for soldiers all across Israel, but hopefully with everybody's help and with your help and more people are joining in. Maybe you could expand it later on to other cities. But the people that are in Hod Sharon are actually coming together as a big community to support and to create and to cook meals. And if there are furniture that they don't need, so they post in the group of Yaniv, and Segev, the day-to-day heroes, and also in Soldiers of Gold, they post the items that they want to give away, and they're giving them away. So it's really a really big sense of family, community, family.
Yes, of course. I cannot do nothing without all the helps of all the people in Hod Sharon. That
takes a village.
Yes, every soldier get a card that he can go around and he can get it for free in the grocery, at the
Oh, wow.
bakery, at the haircut, the laundry,
Wow.
the gym, the pool. Many places in the city gave them a free entrance and give them food or drinks for free. And it's we are trying to take care of our heroes, our soldiers, our lonely soldiers that leave everything home in the
Yeah.
state or in other country, because we have lonely soldiers from all the world, and leave everything, can come to Israel to volunteer, to serve the army, to serve the country, and we are return love to
That is
them.
wonderful. That is so wonderful. You know, I don't know many places that I don't know a place that does it like that. And I want to reiterate that this is not coming from the state of Israel. This is a private vision. This is his own vision of Ofer. It's not sponsored by the state. It is not. It is not subsidized. These are all from good hearts, from hearts of good people, from hearts like people like Ofer, and all people that are coming together. And even in the media, putting things like this in the media, everybody brings their own way of contributing. So this is why we're here also, to bring this for you so you can see that. I want to reiterate about when you're talking about lonely soldiers, what that means. In Israel, there is a classification of soldiers that either they don't have families in Israel, like I said in the beginning, they either come from the States, or in Israel they are orphans, or if they're single, also if they're alone, the only child in a family, and are being sent to a far post, they're considered lonely soldiers. So that is the term of the lonely, what we're talking here. So, so Ofer, yes. So now you're doing it with Eden. Eden is your son. Is the guy with the white
Hey, Ilan.
shirt on the other side.
Hey, Ilan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Eden?
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. Tell us about you a little bit, Eden.
So my name is Eden. I'm almost 30 years old. I live in Hod Sharon, and I'm Ofer's son. I started my military service as an academic officer, and I served in a few units, which is different from each other in their native. And I was lucky to meet wonderful people all over the IDF,
Mm-hmm.
and to see how great we are, how moral we are, how human we are, the IDF and its people.
Mm-hmm.
And during the service, I was very active in pro-Israeli organizations,
Mm-hmm.
such as FATF, IAC, IPAC, AISH, and I started as a student in these delegations, and then as a group leader. And
When you're saying Eish, you mean Esh Torah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it started from Birthright, and then,
Yeah.
and I got to these amazing organizations, and I was lucky to meet great people in all of the Jewish communities in different cities in the US, like New York, Miami, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles. And, when we came to visit them, the communities and the people, and they wanted to hug, and they wanted to hear our stories, and they had very basic and banal questions like, what do you eat in the service, and how often do
Trivial
you go
questions, like
home?
yeah, yes.
And it was so warm to see how interested they were in us,
Yeah.
and how how much love we got from them. And I realized that the stories and the connection with Israel is very important to them, and they don't have enough this content to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is really, you are on a mission, and from many people that I know, many Jewish people here in the States, the IDF is a beacon, is a beacon in this crazy world, and
Oh yeah.
And the sad thing is that the PR that I don't know, once Israel had a good PR. Today, I don't know what happened, but the IDF in many places has not a very good connotation PR, and people are not really familiar, and they think that the IDF are this and that, and this is why you're here. This is why you're here, really, to shed the light about what's going on. Because you're talking about Esh HaTorah, for example, even within the Jewry, and this is one of the points that I wanted to bring out. Segev, for example, maybe you can talk about this, or Yaniv. There is Esh HaTorah, organization like Esh HaTorah, but then there is also a separation between the Jewish organizations within in the diaspora. So one would think that, Jewry everywhere are happy for the IDF and and supporting, but it's not the case. It's not the case, because there are conflicts between the different Jewish streams in the States. Like, there is an organization called Bend the Ark, or Jewish World Service. There are different, and we'll try to reach all of them. We'll try reaching all of them, but there are different perspectives from all these organizations. So, and therefore the perception about the IDF and whether they're important or not, or what they're doing is right or not, is all kind of skewed. And this is where day-to-day heroes come in, right?
There's a big consensus about our hero in the FIDF. Big consensus. Nobody can tell a bad thing about our army, okay? And when we bring in the story of the heroes of Israeli Defense Forces, by the way we bring it, natural.
That's right.
Pure, without addition.
Yeah. I hear you. I want to ask you about this special story about this 14-year-old kid that you were telling about in Colorado, how all this story went. But before that, I really want to give people a glimpse of what Soldiers of Gold gives to the soldiers. And this is a trip, and this is a part of a trip that you took, a sailing trip. You do trips every so often. I know there are hotels in Tel Aviv that are providing food, and just a lot of great perks, So here, I want everybody to take a look at this. This is really cool.
יום שישי, השעון כבר מראה צהריים, והשמש צועקת לקום, להתארגן.
אנחנו כמעט מוכנים.
שיניים לוקח לי קטן, אני כמעט מוכן, היום הולכים לים.
ועוזי המלך. אני אהיה במסיבה. יאללה ברדק, חבר'ה.
קודם כל אנחנו הולכים ליהנות היום. אל תשכחו שיש פה אנשים שיצאו מהבית לפנק אתכם, לתת לכם. זה היחטיונרים שלנו וכל הצוות. אז קודם כל כולנו אומרים להם את התודה הכי מדהימה שבעולם, כי זה לא מובן מאליו.
אהלן, אכלנו. אלופים!
נהנים לדאוג לחיילים, תרגישו שהם לא בודדים, שאוהבים אותם ורוצים שיהיה להם הכי כיף בעולם.
הכל יהיה כיף גדול.
רמון, שחרר אותי כבר! יאללה מלאק, ואני זה שעוד!
יום שישי בצהריים, כל שבוע זה רק דירות מתות ושמיים, עסוקים כאן על החול ואת עוברת כמו בשיר עם בגד ים זעיר אולי הכי יפה בעיר מיליון איך אני נראית? מיליון דולר כולי קומפלט מיליון דולר חותמת על הצ'ק מיליון דולר מיליון דולר ראיתי, הבנתי, אמרתי לכולם פה שמתי, לבשתי, הגזמתי וכולם אמרו ממי זה טעם מיוחד כמה זה צלע שוגעת דומה תסתכל מתקד דומה וממי איך אני נראית? מיליון דולר כולי קומפלט מיליון דולר חותמת על הצ'ק מיליון דולר מיליון דולר
Yes! Hey, welcome! I fix price for you! I want more! David.
איזה לילה חכה לי כמה טוב זה עושה לי כל הבום בום ציקה בום בום הבום בום ציקה בום בום הוא זורק לשמיים דבר לאספת המים עם הבום בום 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 תני בום בום טקה בום בום
תני לי רגע פיצי עד מתי את הדלם שלא תריצי עד האולימפוס תעני לי do you love me יש לי נוף מבלבל לא מתעצל הבחורה הכי יפה בכל ישראל מריד ליוון תלוי מי שואל אחרי הכל ברור לך שקוראים לי בן אל הביט הזה עושה לי הביט הזה עושה לי תן עוד אפשרויות איזה לילה הולך להיות
איזה לילה חכה לי כמה טוב זה עושה לי כל הבום בום ציקה בום בום כל הבום בום ציקה בום בום הוא זורק לשמיים דבר לאספת המים עם הבום בום בום תני בום בום טקה בום בום
עכשיו בוזוקי לפנדן שקידן סוחבת את הרבוקות על הגב שלי דן רקדת יווני אבל הכי מכאן שילוב מסוכן מסוכן זה הדין זאת שהיית שם על הלשון זה חיים שבא לך לתאכול כל היום כמו חתים חלל לצאת האף לי עלה השעי אין לי תחליף אני אראה לך עולת מות עלי לבגע עושות לראות ושאלת שאלות
די נו
איזה לילה הולך להיות
This was really wonderful. This is really good. Tell me, how did you guys connect? Tell me about the story about connecting. Segev, how did you connect with Ofer? And I mean, you started with Soldiers of Gold first of all, right?
Yeah, it was me, Yaniv, and two other roommates. We were the first soldiers of Golden Soldiers.
Okay, where are you from? So where are you coming from?
I was born in Israel, and at a very young age, I moved to Seattle with my parents.
Okay.
And in Seattle, I went to high school. I was the only Jewish kid, only Israeli kid.
Oh, well.
Everybody knew it as well because I was very proud of it. I always liked coming in with an Israeli hat and an IDF shirt, and everyone was always asking me,
Show off.
what the hell are you wearing? And it always brought up a lot of questions. And from there, always a lot of conversation, discussions about Israel. A little bit about Judaism, but mostly about Israel. Conversations turned into somewhat arguments, and I found myself not being able to defend Israel and its heroes and its defense forces because I didn't have any tools. I mean, the other side has so many videos, so much media on their side, and when I came, I had a little written article from Ynet or different organizations. It was hard to compete.
So the PR wasn't great, basically. You didn't know, and there was no information for you to.
You're being way too kind. PR was atrocious. The PR was not even close to what it needed to be. Anyways, obviously, I was still friends with a lot of people in high school, and it was something that always hurt me personally because I was never able to defend Israel like I should have. Fast forward a little bit, at the age of 18, I made an aliyah to Israel and moved to Kibbutz Kisufim with that man over there, Yaniv
With
Levy.
Yaniv, with Yaniv. Wait, before you made the move, how did your parents receive that? I mean, how did it come that you wanted to make an aliyah? Did you always know that, or is it just something that?
Yeah. So pretty much, that's the thing. Because I moved from Israel and I always had the IDF shirts and the Israeli hat, it wasn't shocking to my parents that I wanted to do the move. They're very supportive, gratefully. And yeah, from there I joined the program and I moved to Kibbutz Kisufim.
Mm-hmm.
That's where...
Which is on the Gaza, close to the Gaza border, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on the Gaza Strip, which was also a very great adventure. And I enlisted in a unit called Orev Nachal. It's an elite force in a Nachal battalion. After 2 years of my service, I moved to Hod Sharon with Yaniv and 2 other roommates, and we met Ofer Salomon. Ofer just fell down and shut up in our apartment and said, "What do you need?" The soldiers, we threw out, "We need food. We need." He gave us food, so he said, "We need a dryer." He got us a dryer, and then if you can get us a car, that'd be great. He got us a car.
This is how angels work, you know.
It was just it was crazy. Still, when I say it out loud, it's unbelievable to me because we have lots of lone soldier friends, and they were always shocked and they always wanted to know our secret and who this man was. So finally, they can see who he is, and for future lone soldiers can come to Hod Sharon and be pampered by this organization.
Wow. Yaniv, hi. You've been very patient. You've been sitting down there, you've been very patient, and you've been protecting the whole conversation. I can feel that. Thanks for joining, Yaniv. You're in St. Louis actually now, right?
Yeah, that is correct. I'm currently in the St. Louis area. First of all, I'd also like to thank you for having us on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's really and really just thank you because you are with your humanity and your kindness and your devotion. You're really allowing everybody else to sit and do what they're doing. So this is really great. So let's jump a little bit to Yaniv. Yaniv, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did your maybe your story is a little bit different than Segev. You're lucky you are two separate, so you can tell a different version.
Sure. Well, it's only a little bit different. Segev and I have a very parallel background. So born in Israel, I moved to the Seattle area, not too in Washington State. And also at the age of 18, Segev and I moved together in a program called Garin Sabar to join the Israel Defense Forces. We mentioned that we lived in Kisufim, which is right along the border with the Gaza Strip. And an interesting added piece of information there is that we really, I enlisted just a couple of weeks prior to the beginning of Operation Protective Edge in 2014. So while we were in the kibbutz, it was also during a time of war, and I actually have somewhere around here a jar of shrapnel from a rocket that fell not too far from where we lived. So we spent some time in Kibbutz Kisufim with roughly 30 other lone soldiers. I began my service in undercover unit called the Yamas Ayosh, which is akin to. Go ahead.
No, you just get cut off every so often. So you said start from the unit you've been in again.
So I began my service in an undercover special operations unit called Yamas Ayosh, which, if anybody in your audience has seen the show Fauda, that's the unit that the show is loosely based on. And during my where I served as a sniper instructor, roughly around the same time that I transferred, myself, Segev, and as Segev mentioned, 2 other roommates, we moved to the Sharon. And the rest is essentially history. Segev really nailed it. Ofer came out of nowhere, and we've really had a very close relationship with him ever since. And our relationship has only gotten stronger even after we finished our military service. And as we've acclimated to being civilians, We still play an active role in the organization, and Ofer still helps us. And as however much we are capable, we help Ofer as well.
Oh, this is great, and so you two, this is really wonderful. You two then came up with the idea of really improving, and it's based maybe on your experience, Segev, of not having enough information about the IDF, and you really feel like there was it was a wrong, it was a how do you say it? It wasn't a good service for the IDF really. So you decided to make a presence on the web to bring information about the IDF and to bring the people behind the uniforms. How did that idea start? That idea of daytodayheroes.org?
Well, and I'll answer this in a sort of an example way.
Okay.
The idea didn't just come, right? And me and Yaniv have always listened to podcasts throughout the years. And every time Israel would come up as a subject in countless podcasts, even if it would be just for like 2 or 3 minutes, we would constantly talk about it. We'd be like, we can't believe Israel got on there. We're really excited if it was something good. But a lot of times what ended up happening is because the media was so strong and against Israel, is that we would see a lot of the podcasts that were general, right? They didn't pick a side and they brought a guest on and they would trash on Israel. And it would always hurt us personally because there was no way, there was nothing Israel had to compete with it, right? And we also realized that Israel's biggest enemy, in my opinion, is sound bites. A lot of times when you click on CNN or Fox or anything, if you get 10 seconds of a clip that during wartime, then Israel looks bad. Instead of having a long form conversation where we get to know the heroes of the security forces of Israel. And that's really when the idea built up. And then we both spoke about it and we said, well, we actually need to help Israel. We need to make a change. And from there, we thought of a podcast, long form conversations. And we thought, okay, so maybe I'll interview and Yaniv will hold the video camera and he has editing skills. But we said, we want to be serious cats. We want to go all the way. So we wanted to include Ofer to hear his advice and get his help.
And he didn't just give you an advice. He actually arranged the whole production for you.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. That's the greatest part of the story. We showed up to Ofer, shoulders high, and we said, okay, we want to do a podcast. And he said, what's a podcast? And we explained it to him. And we showed him some examples of a military-style podcast. Somewhat of examples, Joe Rogan, because sometimes he brings military personnel. And he's like, okay, I like the idea. Give me a week. I'll think about it. We come back the following week. The whole thing just blew up. He got us Tzachi Halevi.
Tzachi Halevi is a main actor who is also an ex-special unit soldier. He's playing in the series Fauda for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And was a star lead role in Bethlehem. He's currently working on movies. He knows 5 languages.
Wow.
And he's married to Lucy Arish, which is the first Arab-Israeli major news broadcaster.
Yeah, she's wonderful too.
Wonderful. And he also got us a director, Asaf Gordon, and he got us a set in some videos that wow, this is amazing. We came in with like a little idea that was like, this is really cool. This is really going to change Israel to, okay, now we're playing with the big dogs. We're going to be doing this. We're going to have a website that was designed by Zohar Pomerantz. And it was all these different switches. It was amazing. I'm still kind of blown away by it. Every time I have to tell the stories to other people, like now.
This is encouraging. It is encouraging because, here, this program is called Abracadabra. Abracadabra, for whoever doesn't know, in Aramaic means literally I create as I speak. And what Segev and Ofer and Yaniv and Eden are doing really is coming from a place of giving. The place of giving is automatically a recharging place. When we're in a place of giving, we're automatically being recharged and we're receiving it back. It's like in the old days we had a dynamo on the bicycles, and when the more we pedal, the more light we get. And it's the same thing. So by you doing that, you got to play, as you call it, with the big shots, and because you're coming from a place of giving, so you're getting back. What I want to ask, did the state of Israel, I mean, did they fall asleep on the job as far as the PR? And then when they saw what you're doing, did they come and say to you, Ofer, Segev, this is a wonderful work that you're doing for Israel? Did they ever come back, or was there any conversation between the channels?
So it's a two-sided question, and I'll answer it in two ways. One, Israel does have PR, right? I mean, if you go to their Instagram, if you go to ID, their Facebook, so it does exist.
It feels passive, though. It feels passive.
The way I feel about it is, if a government of a country defends itself, they can try, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's harder for someone outside of the country to believe them because it seems biased.
Because they're biased.
You're right. But if you take it from the other side, from a private citizen, just like us, who built it up and are sharing the stories of the heroes, and they're getting to know the person, the picture they had of Israel breaks automatically. Because now they get to know it through someone else's eyes, through someone else's ears, through someone else's adventures and life.
That's true. That's a very good point. You're doing PR too, right? Obviously, you're doing PR. That's a good thinking. Yes, absolutely. And so everybody wins. Also, the state of Israel doesn't have to pay the money and to work very hard because the citizens are doing. So obviously, the state of Israel is doing something right. With all what we hear outside, if the citizens are coming up and are really defending and fighting and bringing in everybody in their own field, then obviously there is something right. And there is something very fundamental in being in Israel and being Jewish in the state of Israel. It is really the
I'd like to
yes.
elaborate on what Segev was saying as well, is that an audience that we're targeting is specifically the American audience, and our podcasts are specifically available in English, and this is it's no coincidence. You know, when you look at a government's PR operations, it's kind of going in every direction, right? Okay, we need to have our policies in here. We need to have our politics in here. We need to address the United States and Europe and all these various other countries. There's so many directions that a PR campaign, like a national PR campaign, really goes. And we're going in a different direction. We're rather niching down. We're targeting American audience, and our goal is to provide longer form conversations, we'll call it, than anything you'd really see provided by the government, at least, for better or worse, because we don't have a political approach, right? We're not here with any political ideology or political opinions. We all have different political opinions, and so do the people we work with. The purpose here really is, we recognize that Israel's military is a very central part of Israeli culture and society. And by having these podcasts with Israel's heroes, our goal is to give an insight to Israeli culture through that lens. So there's a broad scope of what we're covering that's much more sophisticated, we could say, at least in our goal, not in a way that we're tooting our own horn. It's more complex than a PR campaign, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. You're really coming from you are biased, but you're not, you don't have anything politically to contribute in this. It's really bringing the human factor. And this is really what it is all about. It is bringing the human factor, because we're all kids, we're all parents, we're all children, we're children of the world, and really caring for one another. You know, in one of the conversations last week, I was talking about a speech that Rabbi Sachs from England was talking about. Bless you. Gesundheit.
Say something correct.
And it was talking about what really makes a free society. What is a free society? And the uniqueness that even Moses was telling Israel the 3 points before entering the state of Israel to make a free society and a free person is that you first have to remember where you come from, to take care of your people, to take care of your elders, to take care of the sick, to take care of those who are unable to, and to remember that there is a creator to the world, a creator that creates everything. Those are the 3 pillars that can keep a society sustainable and free. And so really what you're doing is really coming from this place. And this is wonderful that there is no any political agenda. It's really just to help a soldier. It doesn't matter if his parents are lefties or they're righties. He's a soldier. He's a soldier that puts his life on the line for our freedom, for the freedom of people, for the freedom of Jews in their state, in Israel. So this is wonderful, and the way that you're doing it is just beautiful. I want to play, just to give an intro to Today's Hero by the actor that we're talking about, Tzachi Halevi. There you go.
Hi, and welcome to Day Heroes. I'm Tzachi Halevi, and I had a fulfilling career in the Israel Defense Forces, serving as an undercover operative on secretive and high-risk missions. Today, I'm on a different kind of mission, to present to you the personal stories of the veterans of the IDF and Israel's security forces. By joining us, you're about to go on a journey that nobody has gone on before. We will laugh and cry together as we find out about the upbringing of these men and women, about what they did during their service in Israel's security forces, and about what impact they are making today. Day Heroes is the place for you to get to know the veterans of Israel's security forces. Sign up below for free to gain access to exclusive content and to stay up to date on all our newest releases. And if you haven't listened to any of the stories yet, I suggest you do.
This is really encouraging. So Ofer was telling on Friday the story in Hebrew, but Segev or Yaniv can talk about the story of Ziv. This is a 14-and-a-half-year-old kid that is a very unique story. Why don't you go and tell us about this, that story of that person?
I would love to tell it. It also gives me goosebumps every time I think about it.
Amazing story.
To say things without giving out too many spoilers. It's about a 14-year-old boy, like you said. He's in a wealthy neighborhood up north. And somehow, some way, he got mixed up in the drug world in a neighborhood really nearby. The cops started trailing him. And right before he got arrested, his dad stopped him and said, I want to take you to a ski vacation. Let's go to the Rocky Mountains. The boy was a little bit hesitant, and he said, well, actually, I have some business to take care of in Israel, so I don't know if I can go. And the father looked at him and said, what business? You're 14 years old. Let's go. I'm taking you on a free ski trip. Then the boy kind of thought about it. He said, okay, but I'll do it under one condition. Only if you promise me we'll be back here in 2 weeks. So the father says, okay, I promise. They go over to the Rocky Mountains, and he says, I'm going to take you to a boarding school just so you can look at it, just so you can get a feel of it. If you don't like it, we'll leave. And he takes him to the boarding school, takes a look around. There's all these big counselors, marine-looking people. And he tells his son, he's like, listen, yeah, what do you think? And the son says, actually, I want to go. I'm not too fond of this place. Dad says, actually, you're staying. The son wakes up and he understands that his dad just pulled a real fast one on him.
Wow.
Looks on the ground, takes up a big rock, is about to hit his dad right on the skull, cracking the skull. And just before, these two Marine counselors tackle him, literally break him in two, tell the father.
Figuratively, that is.
Yeah.
Not literally.
Well, they held him down. They pinned him.
Yes.
and tell the father, well, you can go now. And the father takes out his son's backpack from the car and goes back to Israel. To make a long story short, without spoilers, of course, after 3 years, his son comes back, joins the Navy SEALs of Israel.
I got goosebumps, man.
It's a crazy story, and it doesn't even. These are just some of the stories as well, just so you know. The
So
other
he's
one,
today. So he joined the Navy SEAL, and he's a big.
He's a really big deal. He was in charge of a lot of the missions as well, some of the really, really big ones that I won't spoil here.
Yeah.
At this podcast when it comes out. And unfortunately, during one of his missions, his good friend Neil died. Neil Kreechman. Sorry, thank you. He passed away. And
he killed in a mission.
He got killed in a mission. And during he went to his dad, to Neil's dad, Ziv Gershoni, the son, and he told him, listen, I want to open something in your son's name. I want to make your son Neil. I want to make him something big, and I have an idea. I want to open up a nonprofit and a boarding school. Exactly what I had in Idaho, copy paste, we'll put it in Israel, and we'll make a lot of your sons, like Nir and Nirim. Multiple Nirim.
Plural, like plurals. Yeah, wow.
Version of Nir in Hebrew. And the idea took off. And now there's a boarding school with a lot of troubled kids that were in Ziv's position. And now they went to that boarding school in Israel, and they're going off to do amazing things. In fact, 2 of the students there in Nirim, were 2 Muslim kids. They were off in East Jerusalem and causing trouble. Their mom got really worried, and she sent them off to Nirim in hopes that they don't become criminals, that they don't go off to jail, because that was their path originally. That's what she was saying. And after them going to Nirim, they both went to combat. They both went to the army, to Golani, which is the combat of
the top of the line combat division. Yeah.
And they guarded on the lines where, if I can say this correctly, right on the border between the West Bank and Israel. They guarded. One of them became an officer, and the other one is a commander.
No more spoilers.
So here's the thing.
Every
time I say it,
that's right. So let's kill the spoilers. So there are no spoilers.
Heroes.org and listen.
Yes. So this whole purpose is really that's the guy. You got us a little bit interested, and now it's like when you start a movie and then they give you a commercial. So exactly. So this is. So this is really a teaser. This program really is an invitation for each one of you to come to go to daytodayheroes.org. That's where the podcast is. To visit Soldiers of Gold, Chayalim Shel Zahav, for those of you who are practicing your Hebrew. And it's really an encouragement for each one of you to go to this wonderful program and to check out the podcast and to bring light to the world. And to bring light to the humanity. What was that?
No, sorry. Keep going.
No, it's okay. And so this is really the work of these wonderful 4. And if there is any way that we can, what we'll do? Do you have a way that people can donate and people can contribute and people can do whatever they can in their capacity, whether they want to donate funds, whether maybe they're in Israel and they're listening to this, because there are many Americans moved to Israel and they want to be part of it, and so they can help in either items or funds. They can go to where?
Yes, if you'd like to donate and help us to bring more stories, Ziv Gershoni is one of the many stories we have.
Ziv Gershoni is the 14-year-old kid story.
Exactly. Yeah. So, go and email us at donations at daytodayheroes.org. When you email us through there, we'll be able to give you more information of how to donate and how to help.
Wonderful.
.org.
.org. Day2dayheroes.org. Org is an organization. Anyway, the email is here. The email is underneath here, underneath these windows. And I wanted to ask you something, and maybe this is reserved for the podcast. I have no idea. But, people like Ziv, right? The 14-year-old kid that suddenly his dad is taking him, and for 3 years, so you're telling for 3 years he didn't come back home. Is that right?
We're going to need to leave that part.
Okay. And what's interesting is probably you're talking about the podcast is what kind of a relationship Ziv has now with his parents after them pulling fast one on him. Is he, these are really fascinating stories, and it's fascinating stories because they're human stories, but moreover because these are the stories of the people behind these uniforms that many people are seeing in the media, in this news that I don't call it really news. It is really a disinformation and a disservice and creating more hatred and creating more separation between people. And where we are today is really a time of connectedness, time of coming together, time of giving, time of being in harmony. So this is as much as we can, especially during these crazy coronic times.
And it's funny you say that, actually, because when me and Yaniv started this idea, one of the main topics we had was, how are we going to bring guests? We know they're out there, we've heard of them, but how do we bring them in? And we spoke a lot about Ofer and how he got the set, he got Sachi, he helped us get people that were on board. And truly, Eden here, his son, he was able to find stories like he was prepared years ahead. He just started scrolling through his phone and says, I have this guy, he ran away from Iran and joined the IDF. He'll be a good story. And Ziv and Tomer Boldano, our first podcast, the symbol of the Second Lebanon War. It's incredible to see how these stories come to light. And it's even more astonishing to see how each person on this team is able to bring, I don't want to say something to the table because we bring everything to the table, but
to bring the uniqueness. Everybody is unique. Everybody brings their own story to the table and to what it is. Yaniv, how is it going there in St. Louis with, are you, by the way, are you visiting in St. Louis? Are you on a secret mission? Are you?
I'm always on secret mission.
Obviously you can't tell us because otherwise we'll be iced. You can't tell us.
Right. Exactly. No, I'm in the States. I can't particularly discuss
I get
what we're here doing, but I'm here speaking to various organizations, and I won't tell you too much. But right now, specifically, I am visiting my family. They live out here in St. Louis.
Okay. Now you were. I couldn't hear you. Say again. Your audio got cut off.
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Now I can kind of hear you, yeah.
What's going on here?
So specifically now you're visiting your family, and you continued to say something, but you were muted. No, showing.
Special mission.
I guess all this cut off on the audio is because you couldn't talk about what you're doing and where you are. I guess so.
Listen, Yaniv is soldier number 001. Segev is 002. Today we are 70 lonely soldier, okay?
So you have 70 lone soldiers that you're taking care of.
Yeah.
Now this is amazing how you're doing this, because this is like,
now I'm visiting my family, but I'm also making the rounds here in the.
Okay.
Okay. I'll explain to you the problem. The problem is Yaniv is 001.
Okay.
Segev is 002. We just sent 007, James Bond. We send him not to tell you what a special secret he is doing now. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So all the time we're going to start to speak about his mission, the volume will be bad.
אז אוקיי, תישאר ככה. So יניב...
מה תישאר ככה?
רגע, הוא בסוף באמת נשאר ככה. רגע, לא, הנה הוא, אל תזוז, רגע. שהטלפון לא... Don't move so the phone doesn't get confused. Don't move so the network stays good. Yaniv, I wanted to ask you about, we're talking about the humanity of the IDF and the humanity of the soldiers, the way that the Israeli soldiers and the army, the codes of the army are really unlike others, the caring for others and the extra cautious, the extra caution that soldiers take, for example, before engaging, like the rules of engagement. And there are specific things that are unique to the IDF than others, and this is part of the humanity factor. So I want you to, if you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Look, the Israeli military is different from other militaries in that it operates almost exclusively in very densely populated urban environments. And we don't fight, we're not in combat against traditional military. These aren't front lines in the traditional sense. It's a lot of combat against guerrilla forces and terrorist organizations that hide within civilian populations. So the Israeli military's rules of engagement are held to a very high regard, and they're a standard that's very strictly adhered to, because we do not want to harm any civilians whatsoever. And the acceptable level of collateral damage in an Israeli operation is much lower than the acceptable level in many other militaries. And I think part of the reason for that is because Israel does hold itself to a standard of morality, or we try to hold ourselves to a standard of morality, as does our military, and it sets us apart from the terrorist organizations and the guerrilla forces in the region. And I myself personally, I can give you examples from some of the operations that the undercover unit that I was in participates in. We when we have like the maps of the target destination where we're going to be performing the operation, it's very clearly marked for us which areas are densely populated because there's schools, mosques, hospitals, police stations, of course, anything of this sort where there's a high chance of civilian casualties, or we'll even plan the operations around the times when, for example, there's a call to prayer and everybody's going to the mosque at 5 a.m. Well, that's not a good time to carry it out an operation because there's a lot of civilians in the area. So things along those lines, really meticulously planned operations, and a lot of attention is dedicated to minimizing even the potential of collateral damage.
This is great, and this is really what separates the IDF from others, because, the whole purpose of, if you think just about the idea, the whole purpose of creating an attack or defending is really to create the attack, and now you have the attacker that is considering the other side before releasing. I remember also in other situations where the IDF would drop pamphlets warning the civilians, telling, why don't you leave now because soon we're going to attack. It's those kind of things that you don't see in any other place in the world. And this is what is missing. This is what is missing, the way that I see that it is not an attacker, it is really a protector. And the protector that is working to protect, and to protect is really protecting life. That doesn't have to. That is
Correct.
not right. It's that how I see it. So this is really wonderful. And bless your heart.
That's really the goal. And look, war and combat. It's not butterflies and rainbows. It's certainly ugly, and anybody who knows anything about combat circumstances knows that there aren't any rules, really. But from the top down, the Israeli military does make a lot of effort, significant effort, to minimize the risk to civilians. And it's difficult, right? You could say that it's strategically flawed. But that's what we do. That's what we try to do.
Yeah, you know, the difference is
And the enemy always takes advantage of it. No matter what, how much more we try to put out,
well,
how much
yeah.
pamphlets we put out, they take full advantage. And if we say we're going to attack at a certain time, at a certain place, so to bring down a building, they'll shove their civilians in that territory.
Yeah, they're using civilians as human shields. Yeah, that's not new. They always done that, but that'll be also their downfall because you know their own people are. But you know, this is a whole different. This is a whole and really what we're trying to bring here, what I want to bring here is really not how strategically important this or that is, but really to show the humanity, because at the end of the day, especially during these times, we are really coming into a bottleneck of energetic explosions. We're seeing many things that are shifting, many changes, a lot of turmoil in the world, and this whole coronic era is really a something that is beyond. I mean, we couldn't write a better script. You want to tell me that there is not a creator for the world? I mean, this is how this whole thing has been going down. Is really unhuman. And so really to bring this program, really to bring the humanity part of humans, really what how we are, how we're looking at things, how we feel about the others. And really at the end of the day, we all want to sit down, drink a cup of coffee and play backgammon, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah, we want to play sheshbesh. Sheshbesh is backgammon. You know, this is the thing. This is the thing about the culture.
That's also our.
What?
Can you hear me right there? Yeah. So what I'm saying is that also bringing it back to day-to-day heroes, which you're welcome to visit us at daytodayheroes.org, is we specifically were looking for the stories. You know, we wanted the big heroes, the big special forces guys, to come into this podcast in an hour and a half discussion, and we want them to cry, right? We want them to laugh. We want them to express why they did what they did, or why they didn't do what they didn't do, and why they regret it, or why they're proud of it, to bring out that human aspect.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's so beautiful. I'm really proud of you guys, and I'm proud to be talking with you, and I'm really honored to have you here, and for you, everyone who is watching, daytodayheroes.org. You have the podcast. This email down here is how to donate and how to contact Ofer, Segev, Eden, Yaniv, all these wonderful guys to support the kids. So if you have a child that is thinking about, or a kid is thinking about going to Israel and joining the IDF, contact these guys. They will take care of him or her.
Bring him to me.
They will take care of them. They'll just have the best time of their lives, you know, yet. And so I'm really blessed, and thank you guys very much for being here. If you have a few words, last words, go ahead.
Sorry. We have Facebook, facebook.com/daytodayheroes, Instagram.com/daytodayheroes, and of course our website, daytodayheroes.org, where you can subscribe, see more content, and see the first podcast.
And join our community.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So when you join the community, when you give us a follow or a like, it really helps the cause, and it's something that now might seem small, but in the future times, it'll push Israel's Defense Forces heroes up to, it'll expose them to the world. And this way everyone can get to know them, and it'll help a lot.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Help me to help them, both of them, bring the story of Israeli Defense Force, the heroes. Help me to help them to find the dream to make the podcast, that the dream come true. And thank you for everybody for listening us, and to all the people that want to help us you got all the address, and thank you, iLan, for everything that you are doing for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank God. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Ofer. Thank you, Segev. Thank you, Eden. Thank you, Yaniv. Thank you for you who are here, took the time and the courage to open your heart and to see really what is beyond the veil of what is being put in front of us. Thank you very much. This is Abracadabra. Create what you speak. Make magic. Be truthful to yourself. I'm iLan Azoulai, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
מה הזמן מסמן לי, זה הכל שאריות של החיים, ולחיות את הרגע, להתחיל לאסוף את השברים. אולי יצא יותר, אתחיל קצת למהר, להתחיל להסתדר ולעשות קצת רע. אולי מקום אחר, מקום יותר בוער, להתחיל קצת לגמרי